this video, we're going to make a Reedley High School Pride Class of 2021 pencil holder, makeup brush holder, just a nice cylinder with RHS and 2021 embedded into the coil pot. This is my sketch, my plan, my design. These are some rough sketches as far as how I wanted to do the RHS and the 2021. I'll use these. I'll show you how to cut them out. And I've already flattened out a base. And to make sure that it's nice and round, I found a bowl that I could use as a guide. I'm just going to cut my base out so we can get started with the themed coil pot. Now I have placed my base on a bat. It's a little bit large, but this is what I'm talking about. When you work on a bat, you can move your project around without touching your project and damaging the shape. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you look at the plan, I have 3 coils. I've already pre-rolled 3 coils, and before I add them, because I'm going to do it time-lapse so it doesn't take so long on the video, but let me show you how to measure a coil the correct way. Okay, you're going to lay it on your project right where it's supposed to go on the base. Make sure it's lined up, and then you're going to overlap it. Make sure you have a long enough coil to do this. Where it's overlapped, you're going to take your pin tool and you're going to cut at an angle. So cut at an angle through both surfaces. Take the extra and the extra off the bottom and blend that coil together. Now the strength will come where it is blended onto the base on the inside. So I'm not really concerned about scoring these areas right here because they'll be fine. Okay, so now we have it measured the correct way, and we'll do the same thing with each additional coil, but scoring in between each level. Now at this point I'm going to do it time lapse. Now that we have the first 3 coils established, now I'm going to put the 2021. I decided to put that below the RHS. So I'm going to do the 2021 logo, and I'll show you how I'll make that. I've already pre-flattened out a piece of clay about the same thickness as my coils. I'm going to lay the 2021 design that I came up with right on top and gently push down so it sticks a little bit. Now, not with a pen tool because it's too sharp. You can either use a ballpoint pen or a pencil. You're going to trace just hard enough to give a little indentation of your design on the clay. Once that is done, then it allows you to cut the design very cleanly because you don't have to worry about drawing it on the clay. Making sure I go over all the lines, and it will make a little indentation in the clay. And this design is designed in such a way that there's no separation between the numbers of the design. You see the indentation. Now it's time to cut the design out with your pin tool. And what I am doing is just cutting the contours. I'm not worrying about the inside lines because that's where it's going to be connected. So once the contour is cut out, you can take the extra clay from around the design. That clay is still good, so I want to put it back in the bag. But right now it doesn't look like much of a 2021. So I'm going to clean the edges off so the jagged edges are gone. And then with a pencil, you're going to go not all the way through the clay, you don't need to, just enough to so you can see the details of the numbers. And I'm doing it with a pencil because it doesn't make such a jagged edge as the pen tool. And after you do this, you'll have to clean it up a little bit. Just like any project, you're going to take your time to make it look good. There's our 2021. Now it's still a little rough right in here and here, but after I get my project completed and it's leather hard, then I can come back and do a little fine tuning. Now it's time to add the 2021 onto the coil pot. And this you have to be careful of, because if you try to bend it too quickly, because it has to go around the curve of your project, if you bend it too quickly, it's going to crack between the numbers, which you don't want it to do. So very carefully and gradually bend it into place. So it looks like that. Carefully, once it's bent, well, because we haven't scored it yet, lay it off to the side and score the inner portion of that last coil. We don't want to score the outside. We don't want to see these score lines coming through the design. And the same thing with the bottom of the 2021, just the inside portion of the design. We don't want to see these score lines. Now, the next portion, we need approximately 3 more coils to fill in this gap. And I'll do that. I'll probably just do that and show you the end result. It is exactly the same as when I did the first 3 coils. I'm just going to get it nice and even to the top. So I'll stop the video and I'll do it on time lapse. Now here's our 2021 with the 3 coils added around the backside. Now I pre-measured a coil that goes on top of the 2021 and the other 3 coils to give it strength before I put the RHS on the top of that section. So here we have it scored. And just where it's going to touch on the numbers is where it needs to be scored. So in these little valleys right here, where the 0 and the 2, don't score in those areas. You'll be able to see them on your final design and they won't be very nice looking. Pushing this down slightly, you don't want to do it so when it gets taller and taller, especially when I've done it in one sitting. The bottoms coils are kind of weak because they have to put a lot of pressure on them if you keep on pushing down. So when I'm blending together, I'm just pushing it so they're attached, but not pushing so hard that it collapses the coils below it. So there we have 2021. The next portion is the RHS. We're going to do the same thing we did with the 2021 as far as flattening out a piece and then tracing it with my design, and I'll do that with time lapse. And the final step is adding the top coil to the top of the design. I originally had thought about 2 more coils, but it's high enough the way it is. And I don't want to make it too high if I want to use it as, like I said, a pencil holder, a brush holder. I like to keep my watercolor brushes in. I've already pre-scored the coil, or actually pre-measured the size of it, scored it, and I've scored the top of my project. I'm going to place it exactly where I want it, and I'm putting the area in which I attach the coil together on the back side, because it just doesn't quite, it's a little thinner here than right here, and I don't want that to be seen on the front. So there we have Reedley High School 2021. Now there needs to be some fine tuning, some cleaning up of some lines, especially right in here. I'm going to let this set to be leather hard, so I'll come back in a couple of hours and I'll show you the final results.